If you've ever felt like an incredible woman just doesn't take you seriously, you probably made this fatal mistake, and the worst part is, you didn't even realize it. Here's the truth. No matter how well you dress, how much money you have, or how many great jokes you know, if you don't understand this key principle, you will always be invisible to the woman you truly want. I'm not saying this just for the sake of it. A few years ago, I met a guy who had what many men dream of. He was tall, athletic, had an impressive job, and a luxury car. He was always surrounded by people at exclusive events, dinners with influential friends. But there was a problem. There was one woman in particular he wanted. Not just any woman, not one of the many who smiled at him out of interest, but that woman. The one who made him think about her all day long. The one who, when she walked into the room, made everything else irrelevant. But she didn't see him the same way. He would invite her out and she'd say yes, but then cancel. He tried to impress her with gifts, with little details, but she saw him as a friendly guy. He tried to show her he was a good catch, but she only had eyes for another guy. One who, objectively, had nothing special. He wasn't better looking, taller, or more successful. In fact, he was quite average. But there was one big difference. This man had something that the other guy had never understood. And that's what makes a woman see you as the man. Not a friend, not just another option, but the only one who truly matters. Here's where most men go wrong. They believe attraction is logical, that if they simply check off enough boxes like good looks, financial stability, and chivalry, a woman will eventually choose them. But attraction doesn't work like that. It's not about what you have, it's about how you're perceived. And if you don't control that perception, if you don't project the kind of energy that activates the emotional side of a woman's brain, then no matter what you do, she'll always see you as a friend, an older brother, or worse, someone irrelevant. What I'm going to show you in this video are not cheap tricks or superficial strategies. This is something much deeper. I'm going to reveal the 7 principles that transform an average man into someone unforgettable in the eyes of a woman. Principles that men like Strauss discovered by studying the most irresistible men in the world. Principles that work because they're based on psychology, not just appearance. The first thing you need to understand is that attraction starts long before she even speaks to you. Because all of this happens in her mind. Most men believe that to attract a woman, they need to impress her. They obsess over what to say, how to dress, how to seem more interesting. But here's the truth. The first impression a woman has of you isn't about you. It's about how you make her feel. And that completely changes the game. Let me tell you a story. At an exclusive event in Los Angeles filled with celebrities and successful businessmen, 2 men enter the same party. The first is what society would call the complete package. Tall, muscular, wearing a perfect suit, with a flawless smile. The typical guy you'd expect to see surrounded by women. The second is the opposite. An average guy in simple clothes, with nothing particularly striking about him. He could blend in anywhere. But here's where things get interesting. Throughout the night, the first man tries to approach the most attractive women in the place. He struggles to say the right things, give compliments, and show confidence. But something doesn't fit. His body language gives him away. He's seeking validation. He's trying to prove that he's a high-value man. The second man, on the other hand, isn't trying to impress anyone, but wherever he goes, he leaves a mark. Women who talk to him laugh, seem comfortable, and lean in without even realizing it. It's not because he's saying anything extraordinary, it's because of the energy he projects. While the first man is trying to earn attention, the second is creating an emotional experience. And there's the key. Female attraction is emotional, not logical. It's not about having the best car, the best body, or the most impressive job. It's about how a woman feels when she's with you. This brings us to a powerful principle: emotional mirroring. Women don't just react to what you say or do, they mirror the energy you project. If you approach her nervously, feeling inferior, she'll perceive it, and without thinking, reflect it in her attitude towards you. If, on the other hand, you project a relaxed, confident energy, an energy of "I know who I am and I'm enjoying this moment," she'll feel it and respond in the same way. Think about it. Have you ever seen a man walk into a room and without even speaking, people seem to notice his presence? It's not because he's physically stunning, it's because his energy is solid. He's not seeking approval, he's not trying too hard. So, how can you apply this right now? Here's a simple but powerful exercise. The next time you talk to a woman, instead of focusing on what to say or how to impress her, focus on how you feel. Ask yourself, how do I want her to feel right now? If you want her to feel comfortable, have fun first. If you want her to feel intrigued, enjoy the mystery in the conversation. If you want her to feel attracted, relax and let the tension build naturally. Women perceive much more than just words. Their first impression of you is formed in the first few seconds, and it's not based on what you say. It's based on what you project. When you understand this, you no longer try to force attraction. You simply become someone who naturally sparks it. And that's where the difference between being forgotten and being unforgettable begins. Some men walk into a room and immediately seem powerful, not because they're the tallest, the best-looking, or the richest, but because their mere presence creates a reaction. Women notice them, men respect them. But the curious thing is, they're not doing anything extraordinary. They're not shouting, not bragging, not trying to be the center of attention, so what makes them magnetic? This is where one of the most powerful concepts Neil Strauss discovered when studying the most charismatic men in the world comes in: the solid frame. In simple terms, your frame is your internal reality. It's the way you see the world, the level of certainty you have about yourself, and how that influences others. Men with a solid frame don't seek approval. They don't try to fit into the conversation. They don't ask indirectly, "Do you like me?" or "Am I interesting?" They're just there, with an energy that says, "This is me, and if you want to be a part of my world, great. If not, that's fine too." That's the big difference between real presence and the need for validation. The need for validation is when you try to prove your worth to be accepted by others. Real presence is when you already know your worth and allow others to perceive it effortlessly. And here's a key point. Women can notice this difference in seconds. If you walk into a room with nervousness, if you care too much about how you're perceived, if you try to say the perfect thing to impress, they'll feel it and will automatically lose attraction. But if you walk in with calm, with the certainty that you don't need to prove anything, people will notice it without you making a single effort. Now the question is, how do you anchor dominant presence in any environment without being arrogant? Here's a simple but extremely powerful exercise. 1. The king's posture. Before entering any room, stop for a second. Relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath. Imagine you're the owner of the place, not from arrogance, but from internal confidence. 2. Steal eye contact. Don't look down. Don't look all around searching for approval. Just keep your gaze steady on people calmly, not challengingly, not shyly, just present. 3. Confident. Tone of voice. Speak slower than usual. Don't rush your words. When a man has presence, people take the time to listen to him. And here's the most fascinating part. When you apply these 3 elements, the whole environment responds to your energy. Women are attracted without you doing anything special. Men treat you with more respect without you needing to impose yourself. And the best part is, you no longer need to seek validation from anyone because your presence imposes it naturally. That's what separates the men who go unnoticed from the men who leave a mark. When you understand this, you no longer worry about what to say or how to act, because your energy speaks before you do. And when you make a woman feel this in her first encounter with you, you've taken the first step to make her see you as the man of her life. Women don't fall in love with facts. They fall in love with stories. And if you don't have a story that captures her, then you're like a book without a cover, like a movie without a plot, something she can easily forget. Think about it. Why do movie protagonists generate immediate attraction? It's not because they're the most handsome or the strongest, but there's something about them that makes the women in the audience sigh and the men want to be like them. That something isn't just charisma or confidence. It's the story they project from the moment they appear on screen. Their presence is felt, not because they say it, but because they demonstrate it with every gesture, every look, every decision. They are men who have been through something. They've had losses and victories. They've felt pain but turned it into strength. And here's the key. What really attracts a woman isn't who you are now, but what you've lived through to become who you are. The problem is that most men don't tell their story. When a woman asks them about their life, they respond with cold facts. I'm an engineer. I work at a tech company. I like going to the gym. Do you realize how boring that sounds? There's no emotion, no depth, nothing that makes her feel anything. Now compare it to this. I've always been someone who seeks challenges. That's why I studied engineering, because I love solving problems that seem impossible. Once at university, they told me a project couldn't be done in less than a month. I did it in a week, without sleeping, just to prove to myself that it was possible. Notice the difference? It's not just information, it's a story, and a story always leaves a mark. Now, the question is, how can you create an intriguing personal narrative? Here's a simple but powerful formula. 1. Initial struggle. Start with something that shows you're not perfect. A challenge, a failure, a hard lesson. 2. Transformation. Explain how that experience changed you, made you stronger or wiser. 3. Current purpose. Show how that story turned you into who you are today and why you're still evolving. For example, I used to be a shy guy. When I was a kid, public speaking terrified me. But one day, I was forced to do it for a school competition. I was shaking, my hands were sweating. But when I finished, I realized that people were actually listening to every word. From that moment, I knew I had to improve my communication skills. Now, speaking confidently comes naturally to me, but only because it didn't always. Do you see what happened there? The story creates connection, vulnerability generates empathy, and transformation leaves an impression. Now, your exercise. Think of a defining moment in your life. It doesn't matter if it was a failure, a challenge, or a victory. Write it in 3 parts. 1. Where you were before. 2. What happened to you and what you learned. 3. How it changed you and what you are now because of it. When you speak with a woman, don't just tell her what you do or what you like. Give her a story, because stories stick in memory. And if you make her remember your story, she'll also remember the person who told it. Have you ever wondered why some women are attracted to men who don't seem to try to win them over, while others, who give everything, end up ignored or stuck in the friend zone? The answer lies in a simple yet powerful principle. Scarcity creates value. The mistake many men make is thinking that if they're always available, they'll be more attractive. They think that replying to every message immediately, saying yes to every plan, and always being reachable will make a woman value them more. But the reality is different. When something is easy to get, we take it for granted. We see it as something safe, guaranteed, and therefore, it stops being exciting. But what's hard to get, what we feel we could lose, what's not available all the time, that triggers a different response in our minds. We desire it more. This is the principle of scarcity, one of the most powerful psychological foundations of attraction. People value what they feel they can't easily have. Look around you. Luxury items aren't attractive just because of their quality, but because they're exclusive. VIP events aren't interesting just because of the content, but because not just anyone can get in. And the same goes for attraction. A man who is always accessible, always available, always easy to read loses that exclusivity factor. While a man with his own purpose, an interesting world, a life that doesn't revolve around a woman becomes magnetic. But here's where many go wrong. When they hear this, they think the solution is to play mental games, ignore messages on purpose, pretend not to care, act arrogantly. But that's false. True value, true attraction comes when you actually have something bigger in your life. A purpose, a path you're following, with or without her. Women can tell the difference between a man who plays hard to get and a man who is genuinely a challenge because his time and attention are valuable. So how can you explain this without playing dirty games? Start with something simple. Stop being always available. Don't reply to messages in seconds just to show you care. Don't cancel plans last minute just because she texted you. Don't put your life on hold waiting for her validation. Instead, make every moment with you valuable. If she knows she can have you whenever she wants, she'll never see you as something special. But if every interaction with you feels like a unique experience, then she'll awaken a desire to spend more time with you. Here's your 7-day challenge to become less predictable and more magnetic. 1. Day 1. Stop replying to messages immediately. Respond when you have time, not when you feel you must. 2. Day 2. Don't accept last-minute plans. Show that you have a busy life and you're not waiting for her to invite you. 3. Day 3. Go out with friends or do something for yourself without needing to tell her everything. A mysterious man is an interesting man. 4. Day 4. Don't reveal everything about yourself too quickly. Keep details to let her discover things over time. 5. Day 5. In a conversation, don't seek her approval. Speak your mind without worrying whether she'll like it or not. 6. Day 6. Change your routine. If she always sees you in the same place or the same way, surprise her with a new side of you. 7. Day 7. Evaluate how she's acted these days. If she's shown more interest, it's because she started noticing you're not a man anyone can have. When you apply this, you become someone valuable, not because you fake it, but because you truly are. And at that point, you're no longer just an option. You become the option she doesn't want to lose. There are men who simply can't be forgotten, not because they're the most attractive, not because they have the best body or the biggest bank account, but because there's something about them that leaves a mark in a woman's mind. And the funny thing is that often, she can't even explain why. It's like something inside her makes her think about that man over and over, even after days, weeks, or even years. His memory stays with her. It's not by chance, it's science. The human brain associates the most intense emotions with the people who were there in those moments. It doesn't matter if the emotion was adrenaline, laughter, or vulnerability. If you were there at the precise moment, her mind engraved you in her memory. Have you noticed how certain experiences stay with you forever? It could be a 3 a.m. conversation where you shared things you'd never said before, a laugh so deep it even hurt your stomach, or an adrenaline moment that made your heart race. It doesn't matter what it was. What matters is how it made you feel, and that feeling is forever linked to the person who was there. That's why there are men who may not be the most handsome or the tallest, but still have women obsessed with them, because they didn't win them over with empty words or expensive gifts. They created an emotional connection that became part of her world. And this isn't something that happens by accident. There's a way to make a woman associate you with her strongest emotions, and when you do, you go from being just another guy to being unforgettable. To do this, you first need to share experiences that trigger intense emotions, and there are 3 effective ways to do that. 1. Adrenaline moments. It doesn't have to be extreme like skydiving. It can be as simple as watching a horror movie together, doing something unexpected, or playing with tension in a conversation. When the heart races, the brain triggers the same response that creates attraction. And if you're there in that moment, the feeling anchors to your presence. 2. Laughter. Not the kind of laugh that comes from a rehearsed joke, but genuine laughter that springs from spontaneous moments of real connection. People let their guard down when they laugh genuinely. And when you make a woman laugh like this, it creates an instant sense of comfort and attraction. 3. Shared vulnerability. People feel more connected to those who've seen their true side. When you share something authentic, something not a facade, you create a space where the other person feels safe to open up. That's when the connection stops being superficial and becomes something deep. But this doesn't mean sharing all your insecurities or seeking pity. It's about sharing meaningful stories, moments that truly defined you. Instead of talking about trivial things, you can tell her about a life lesson that marked you, or an experience that made you see the world differently. If you manage to combine these 3 elements in any interaction, you'll create a real emotional connection. And when that happens, her brain will no longer see you as just an option. Now, the key is knowing how to take a conversation from superficial to emotional without it feeling forced. You can start with light conversation, something simple, then introduce a topic that triggers emotions. You can ask her, "What's the most unexpected or exciting moment you've ever had?" And when she shares something, instead of reacting like everyone else, use it to take the conversation to a deeper level by sharing your own experience that has a strong emotion. If you do it right, in less than 10 minutes, you'll have created a stronger connection than any other man who's only trying to impress her with empty words. Because in the end, real attraction isn't about what you say or what you have. It's about what you make her feel. When you get her to associate you with intense emotions, you're no longer just someone she spent time with. You're someone who left a mark in her mind. And that's the difference between being forgotten or unforgettable. Stories are the only thing that really endures in a person's mind. Everything else, sweet words, first impressions, even superficial attraction, fades with time. But the story a woman tells about you, that can stay forever. If you think about it, every woman has that man in her life. Not necessarily the most handsome or the most successful, but the one who left a mark. The one who, no matter how much time passes, remains a part of her story. And that's not luck. It's the result of something much deeper. Now, do you get it? It's not about learning scripted phrases or acting a certain way to impress her. It's about becoming a man who is impossible to ignore. A man who, from the very first moment, projects something different. A man who doesn't seek validation because he already knows who he is. Who isn't always available because his time and his life have purpose. Who doesn't just talk, but makes her feel something. All of this we've broken down into 7 principles. 1. Understand that the mistake that makes you invisible is thinking that attraction is logical when it's actually emotional. 2. Understand that the first impression is not about what you say, but about how she perceives you. 3. Work on your magnetic presence. The way you enter a room without saying a word, and people notice your energy. 4. Learn to tell your story because women fall in love with what you represent, not just with who you are now. 5. Build exclusivity, making it clear that not everyone can have you and that you're not available all the time. 6. Create emotional experiences that make her associate you with unforgettable moments. 7. Ultimately, all this leads to one point: becoming a story she wants to tell, because it's not about making her choose you. It's about being the man she can't forget. Now there's something you need to do. It's useless to understand these concepts if you don't apply them. So here's your final challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to change one thing about how you interact with women. Just one. Maybe it's how you enter a room. Maybe it's the tone of voice you use. Maybe it's the way you tell your story. It doesn't matter what it is, but make sure every day you're aware of how you project your energy. At the end of the week, ask yourself one question. Am I the same man I was 7 days ago? If the answer is no, if you notice a difference in how people perceive you, how women react to you, then you already know what it means to have control of your own story. And when a man has control of his story, he doesn't need to chase anyone, because the story he's living is the one everyone wants to be part of.